Good morning. We will resume our workshop studies today. Call this meeting to order. I believe they want us to try these instruments. If you're here, match one. Acknowledging everyone's present, let's all stand, please, and Mr. Garrison and Ann will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you this morning for your many blessings upon us. We thank you once again for the opportunity of assembling together as a group of citizens. We pray that you might be with us today as we work through this budget. We pray that everything that is done and said will be done to glorify you and be that which is best for the citizens that we represent. These blessings we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please face the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, let's vote.
Number 1 for yes, number 2 for no.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Manager, it's in your court.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. So this morning, or today, you have law enforcement, you have the sheriff representing the Sheriff's Office and Detention Center. He'll have a presentation, and following that, you will have emergency management. So if you would like, the sheriff can come up and begin, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Sheriff. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody this morning?
Wonderful.
Appreciate your service to the citizens of Pitt County. Great honor to come in and be able to present our budget. After working hours after hours with the manager to try to meet the goals of the county commissioners and the manager with our budget this year, I have a few concerns I'm going to highlight and bring to your attention this year. Let's see which way I go. Okay. Our mission statement, same as every year. Our mission at the Pitt County Sheriff's Office is to serve and protect and defend the community with integrity and sound judgment and manner of respect and trust that have been placed upon us, while preserving the rights and dignity of all. And we'd like to highlight some of our services just to serve as a reminder of what we do. You can follow along with me on that. Administrative division, our civil process division, they're the ones that serve all the civil papers in the department, executions, collect money for the tax department as well, some of the citizens. Community patrol division, they're the ones that respond to calls for service. Their job is a 24-hour day job, 7 days a week. Court security and the courthouse, that's changed a lot over the last years. We've been able to enhance our security with our metal detectors. And all the partners here in this room, we've been able to make that happen. I feel like our courthouse is a much safer place than what it used to be. In today's environment, we need to always be mindful of what we can do better. Detention center, we presently have capacity of 500 beds that we have. We still have our F block that's not open at this time. Forensic science is our ID lab. In case you don't know, I'd like to re-announce we have hired our chemist. He's been with us about 4 months. We were able to find him. He worked with the SBI office, was looking to advance his career in leadership, as well as being able to continue what he loved doing, was testing narcotics and preparing cases for court. Investigation division handles all our crimes, calls for service, break-ins. Hats off to them. Their solve rate is really high compared to the national average. Just as we demonstrated, I think 2 weeks ago, we had one of our citizens murdered, killed in a fire. We have our all hands on deck policy when it comes to a murder. All our detectives were deployed, and within approximately 48 hours, we had that case closed up, arrest made on that case. Special Operations Divisions, that's our SRT. They also serve as a special response unit to the high nature, I guess I would be able to word to say the more serious cases where armed suspects are there that we have to deal with. That's just another duty that they are assigned. They are spread out through the department. They're actually patrol officers, court officers, detention officers, detectives, and when the call of duty comes, they are deployed as a unit. And our victim advocacy. They work with our victims of crimes. They have a day-to-day operation. They have to be in contact with all our victims by law. We send letters to them. We communicate with them, making sure that they're provided with the services that the state requires us to do. Community Impact Division. As you can see, we just highlighted some of the pictures of some of the events we did. We feel like in law enforcement we need to be engaged with our community. We don't always want to be looked at as a rough, tough enforcement type department. We want to know that people can reach out to us, that we are involved, soften our reputation, I guess, in the community, what some people think that we do. There are several events there that we worked on this year, including our seniors reading in the school, deputizing one of our special deputies there. And you know, on the left, it's hard to tell what that picture is, but that's one of our therapeutic ponies that are in a nursing home. We carry out a couple times a year and engage with our seniors. Community Impact held 2 National Nights Out events in Grimeson and Belle Arthur. We expanded our community watch programs in our community. They're again trying to engage our community as much as possible, enhance our security and safety programs for our churches in Pitt County. We offer assessments. We actually go in and teach a basic 101 class on church security. Some churches consider having armed officers there. There's several programs in place. And several of our officers participate in their local churches as well. I actually head mine up, and I know several of the other churches that work for me head up other church security as well. That's something they do as a volunteer, and it's something we pay them for, but they want to make sure their house of worship is safe. And recent events have occurred. Through local businesses, we've been able to fund our DARE program. Several agencies across the state have chose to cut that out of their budget across the country. And Pitt County Sheriff's Office continue teaching the kids our DARE program. We also intervene there, school safety, what we can do to keep our kids safe and trying at that age prepare them for when they're in high school, how to be on the lookout for active shooters and how to be on the lookout for situations that may escalate into other situations. And actually, Thursday night, we're actually having a DARE fundraiser at the Longhorn. If anybody would like to come out and participate, basically, it's you tip your waitress, and the money goes towards the DARE program, and that's a great success. We always ask our community to help with the DARE program. That's one of our avenues that we have to raise money.
Where was that?
The Longhorn, Thursday night, this coming Thursday night. Another program we do is our summer camp. We take a group of kids from different areas, and we do, it's about a 7-week program we do, where we basically expose them to the sheriff's office, the judicial system. They're taught a program. They just don't entertain, they play, but they do have fun field trips that they go on. One of our local businesses, Pinco, they are the main sponsor of this. He encourages his employees to give to this, and when they give, he matches the funds. So, and they actually help on the last day with the cooking and stuff. It's just another community involvement I want to share with you guys about what we do. Sorry. Some of our challenging jobs in our works. If you look at the pictures there, you see us having to work during the snow. The picture to the left of that is a special response team in the jail. So you have to have a unit in the jail as well as in the field. These guys are experts in dealing with jail extractions. They deal with situations in the jail where you got an inmate that's out of control and is causing harm to other people. They're trained to go in and extract those people out and put them and make them safe as well. You see some pictures of SRT guys, a K9. Far left top is a deployment where they're in a vehicle getting ready to go do a raid. You see some of the drugs we made this year, drug seizures and arrests, and there's many, many more of those. Our vehicles, money, you see ID work there, what they're doing. And far right is another picture of our SRT unit. Excuse me. Some of our performance highlights. We responded to more than 29,500 calls for service. We've performed over 34,000 business checks. We created more than 6,400 reports documenting criminal activities that would be actually not just a call for service where a crime is committed. Our Part 1 crimes are down year to date 4%. We processed more than 21,200 papers so far this year. And remember, the paper services, that's where they have to pay the $30 to get served. So we serve a lot of papers. I emphasize personal service rather than posting, so we really try to keep our personal service rate up. It makes a difference in the end when you go to court whether or not the paper was personally served or just posted. If it's personally served, they can collect judgment. Demands for service. Okay, as you can look at the charts there, I try to make them simple to understand. Concealed carry permits, we did 2,095 this year, slight increase from last year. And just to remind you, our gun permits are due every 5 years, so they have to do a renewal. And we were able a couple of years ago to buy a live scan, so they don't, once we've done it electronically, we don't have to manually roll those prints. It makes it faster for the citizen that comes in and saves us time as well. Handgun purchase permits, just to highlight a few of them, we get $5 per permit. Our concealed carry, the citizens pays $90, $45 goes to the state, $35 goes to processing, and we get $10 for the fingerprinting. The concealed carry renewals, the citizen pays $75, $45 goes to the state, and $35 goes for the paperwork for our agency. Excuse me. A couple of our budget requests. We're faced with a lot of things that I feel like you need to be aware of, and hopefully you can ask some questions about there. We can try to meet those needs. I know this year's a tight budget, but these are some concerns I got, and I just want to put them before you and let you make a decision. Additional part-time staffing, and that's mainly in the lab. Things have changed a lot since we started a lab. We're accredited now, or working on accreditation, and everything has to be reviewed by the second person to say, hey, yeah, you're right. He has to write a review on it. So it's a lot more technical than what it's ever been before. My next slide, I can go into more of that. But we've got a K9 that's retiring, and I laughed when I put the picture on. I said, well, you got him dispatching in that picture, so maybe that's what they understand a dual purpose is. But really, we don't have dogs answering the phone. But that was a soft picture we're trying to put out to soften our department's image. Important Motorola upgrades. Motorola's like tasers, you know, they got to figure out how they're going to sell your radios. So the old radios, they no longer service those radios, and now you got to buy new ones, but it's just a plan to keep them selling new radios. But anyway, that's further in my slide. My next slide, we're going to talk about the budget request for the part-time. Accreditation requires dual lab verification procedures, as I was speaking on just a minute ago. Nancy Gregory, it was really a blessing to get her. She retired about 1.5 years ago from the State Bureau of Investigation. She was actually the supervisor that ran the state lab. So we got her, and she's a part-time employee. She wants to work a couple hours a week. I think we work her 20 hours a week. But she lives in Raleigh, but her circumstances work out really good. She got a friend of hers that lives in Farmville. She's an older lady. She stays with her, helps her on her expenses. So she stays here then that week, and then she goes back to Raleigh to stay with her family. But having her is priceless. We know that her price per hour is going to be more than our average $18 an hour employee that we hire at part-time. So that's going to really hit us hard on our part-time. So we've had to ask for an increase on our part-time to cover that difference of what she's going to be drawing out of our part-time funding. And we feel like it's really necessary to keep the flow going of our lab. And we have Chuck McClellan. He's a part-time technical review too. He does the same thing, retired from the SBI, but he has to review the other chemists we have. He has to review her blood, he has to review her marijuana testing. He writes reviews. And Chuck is the one that really came in 2 years ago and set us up and saved us a ton of money. He flat charges by the hour versus having a private sector to come in and get our manuals and everything up to date where they needed to be so we could continue being in the guidelines of the state requirements. So he works less than per hour than Nancy does, but he wants to stay on. So we know that that's going to really burn up our overtime, our part-time. But we're presently testing for Greenville now. We're doing all our testing. They said they had 80 tests on the table the other day, and that's not really a backlog compared to what other agencies that do testing is. We tested for Greenville, East Carolina, and a few small police departments in the county. Remind you there is revenues off of that. Every drug test we do, I think the revenue is $600 a test. Same thing with alcohol. I think it's $600 as well on the alcohol test. You know, and we all humans, I know that the drug testing is a little slower coming in on revenues, but if you do this enough years, you'll start getting enough income through probation. But we find that the blood testing comes in quite quickly because they want to keep the license, they want to keep, get back driving. So we automatically get that 600 pretty quick. So when that comes through. Budget request for a dual K-9 officer. I guess I do need to consider putting him as a dispatcher, but we'll see. K-9s generally retire after 6 to 8 years. First 8 years ago, we bought 4 dogs. This is the last one that hadn't been replaced. Titan is near his age, showing signs of fatigue. We're requesting funds for that. Our recommendation is $17,000, which sounds like a lot, but it includes the training. It also includes the kennel. There are some ways we can sharpen that up, but that is a true cost. I just want you guys to be aware of. Spoke a minute ago about the radios. These numbers probably don't mean anything to nobody, but these are the model numbers here. These radios have been discontinued, pardon me. Effective December 2019, we will lose the hardware and software support. They still work, but when they break down, they ain't gonna fix them no more. And Motorola's have been really good radios. We have very little maintenance on them. Our radios have lasted the entire time, as long as they're not abused and dropped and run over by a car. They're pretty good. So I know years ago we had off-brand radios and we just had problems with them all the time. But Motorola makes a good radio. Now they got to figure out how to make us buy more. So this is what they're doing. Well, we can replace, with the money that we requested, the $90,000, we can replace 10 of each. That'll be 10 handhelds and 10 dash radios. And this is basically going to put us on a cycle that we need to start cycling some of the older radios out in order to meet that demand for 2019. Excuse me. Fiscal year 2017-18, we updated 43 new fleets, 43 new vehicles of our fleet. We always have a concern about our aging vehicles. This is something that's been a problem for years, and I know 2010 really got us behind. We requested for 10 more vehicles. And the average person is going to say, wow, I just gave you 43, but when you have as many as we do, I think we've got 100 and, what we got, 180? 200 now, 200 vehicles. Okay, 200 vehicles. So if you calculate that, it would take us 10 years at 10 cars to get our vehicles traded out. A detention center van, if we're going to participate in the federal inmate program, we need to look at buying a replacement van every year. And that don't mean that van's replaced, but the life of those vans is about 4 to 5 years. And we have, we got 4 vans now? 5 vans at our detention center. They're on the road every day. I was listening to them yesterday. I know 2 different trips were out of the county, picking up prisoners and moving prisoners and dealing with the federal marshals. That's just a expense we're going to have, but we're going to keep dealing with our federal inmates. 37% of our vehicles still have over 100,000 miles or close to it. The list below, I want to list what we bought this year with the money, with the group of money we had. We chose these cars to be our best vehicles for the price. Actually, Dodge Chargers were $2,000 less this year than they were last year. We really wanted to get the Ford's SUV, but the time I equipped that Ford SUV and the difference price, I was spending $9,000 more per vehicle. So I had to choose what I needed versus what I wanted. So we got the cars. I needed more cars than I needed the SUVs. This decision we made enabled us to buy more vehicles. The Tahoe there is a utility Tahoe, and it's used to haul a trailer to the range and equipment, and it hauls a lot of dead weight, and that vehicle is loaded down with ammo when it moves out, and that's what that's for. And it has gun lockers in the back that he can keep his stuff in. It's not a police pursuit vehicle, it's just a utility type vehicle. The Chevrolet 3500 is a van we bought this year. And our guys have been real cost conscious when we buy these, because I try to buy, I'm given a figure, so I want to buy as much as I can, whether it be equipment or whatever. In this particular situation, we were able to take an insert that cost $12,000 out of another van, and it's compatible with that. So we were able to not add additional cost to that, and hopefully being able to take that effort and apply it towards another vehicle somewhere. Accomplishments of our gang investigators. Last 2 years, you guys have given us 2 gang investigators per year. I actually have formed a street crimes unit with that. These are some of the highlights that these guys do, and their main purpose is gangs and getting the guns off of our streets, and they really do a bang-up job on that. They're flexible for any other assignment they need at the time. They're in plain clothes one day and uniform the next. So it depends on what we got. But the last year we've had a lot of gang activity, a lot of people been shot, a lot of people throughout the county, not just really us, but Greenville. We had a lot of threats on law enforcement officers, as we always do. So these guys are really gone and really sought after gang members. We partner with the Greenville Police Department. They furnish gang members to work together on special occasions. Like, their job is they do what I have them to do, and then when they get together, the DA office sends a concern, and then their work is the Viper Group. The Viper Group is a group that, don't ask me what it stands for, but it's a group that they named of officers that work together, and they work directly with the DA, and the DA is saying, these are our problems, this is why they're our problems, let's go after them. And after we get them, then they aggressively prosecute them in court. And so it's really got it worked out good, where we just don't go out and make an arrest and then just sit there. So they're aggressively trying to get them where they're habitual felons and get these people off our street. And look at the cases they investigate. Most of these cases are self-initiated cases. You got 154 initiated cases, 107 cleared by arrest, 102 arrests. Misdemeanor charges, felony charges, gun seized, 39, ATF traces, and what that is we found a gun and believed to be stolen or don't know who it belongs to. We had to do an ATF check, and that's time consuming. You have to send it to the ATF. It takes a while to get it back. The money seized, fugitives were arrested. A lot of times somebody calls and says, hey, there's a fugitive living in the county, you need to go look for them. These are the guys I put on it. These guys take care of it. They're good at what they do. They're good at surveillance. They're good at building cases. And they got a good force of informants right now. They work really good with, which we all know that's very productive. The concealed carry revocation. And what that means is somebody is no longer eligible for concealed carry, we have to go seize those and take them up. These guys go do that. Nobody wants to give up their gun permit, so they'll avoid service for a while, so we have to go after them and aggressively get those back. Excuse me. And now we'll move to our detention center. Just bring everybody up to speed and remind everybody the detention center was built in one phase, 1993, with 308 beds. In 1997, we added 96 beds. 2009, we had additional 192 beds, mattress office, booking area, the kitchen expansion. We currently have 500 beds out there. 96 beds in the E block are unopened at this time. I'll give you a little chart there to look at, and you can study that. But basically, it just talks about our average population during the year. Total bed space, like I said, was 500. Function capacity is 440. Population is down 4% this year. So we've been able to increase our federal revenue for the state prisoners being down. A lot of contributing factors we contribute to is the probation court. Entire staff works hard that the minute we get an order that this guy's been sentenced or he's going somewhere for probation violation, we immediately get him out of our jail. You know, you leave them in jail 2 extra days, I got to feed them, I got to be responsible for their health. So we just try to take advantage of every opportunity we can to keep our population. It's what's ours and not somebody else's problem. We move paperwork, transport timely manners. Our mental health position is really worked out good. I think we identified, I thought it was on my sheet here, about 36 people that she's identified that she works with that are, we like to refer to as consumers in our jail, that she tries to find placement for them in other places. Here's a list of our highlights of our revenues. We got a year to date, and we're pretty comfortable on our projection for the end of the year there, based on day-to-day operations. Our commissary was, we redid that this year, sending out RFP. We've been able to, right underneath jail fees as commissary commissions, we've been able to increase that by just negotiating a contract with them on what we were expecting for revenues and what we were going to, well, how much they're going to pay us and how much percentage we're going to get off the sales in the jail. Our federal inmate year-to-date is 1,355,847, and we project we're going to do 1,750,000 this year. And I think our projection of last year's revenues was, it should be 13, 1,355,000. And that just again talks about a history of our federal inmate over the years. I think it was last year, 15, 16, we dropped our average count to, was it 35, Scott? We did, was it last year or year before last?
Last year, we
Yes,
went
sir.
70 to 35.
Yeah. At that time, we really were seeing a trend that we were going to be overpopulated. But since we've dropped it down, we've actually seen a population, like I mentioned earlier, our population has gone down. So rather than having 50, 60 beds sitting around, we just try to fill them up with federal inmates, which has been able to relieve the county of a great deal of money and revenues. Inmate worker safety, that's one of my biggest concerns this year. We saw a lot of incidents in our state prison system this year, cost the life of several people. the knowledge I have about it, probably ain't public record, but it was a lot of neglect there, poor supervision in certain areas, understaffing was the biggest thing. Probably enough said. But we look at what can we do. You know, what areas could we do better in our security? And one of our first things that we're concerned about, if you look at that picture there, that's inside of our kitchen. We have contracts cooks, Airmark. A lady comes in and does our meals, but she supervises all these people right here. Now, we have guards that walk through on a round check. We were just thinking if we could get a guard in there full time during that service, that would take that vulnerability of what's in that kitchen away to keep the inmates safe as well as our officers and prevent a potential escape. We have 13 inmate workers in the kitchen, and like I said, only supervised by the contract person. They make their rounds, check on them. Our kitchen is open from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. Inmate workers, kitchen, laundry, sanitation workers, we have over 57,000 hours of free labor in the Pitt County Jail, and we predict it saves the county $414,000 a year. And just to highlight, I really didn't want to show a whole lot there because I don't want to get anybody no ideas, but if you look what we have in our kitchen, that's some of the tools in the box there. The picture on the left is going to just let you figure out what that is. I didn't really want to show it, but it's tethered to a lock. It's an unlocking device there. It's probably one of the most deadly weapons that an inmate could have in the jail. And we just feel like that's an area that we need to improve on. And the instance in Pasquotank County was a sewing shop where a lot of weapons were laying around, and an inmate took advantage of that and did what he did. You know, loose pot handles, we have knives, we got cleavers, but it is that person's job, and our detention officer's job is to make sure they're all put back. You know, but what happens between the time they checked out and the time they get back? Now, we ain't had an incident yet, but that's an area I really love to see us improve on when it comes to our jail safety. We all know one incident could cost the county more than what we'd ever pay in salary. Our next one, we on our CIP, I know we've talked about the body scan request. This is new technology. It's a new avenue for detention centers using it. Department of Health and Human Services has given us a letter of exemption in order for us to be able to use this in our facility. One, maybe two now, other sheriff's offices in the state are using this. As you see right there, I tried to find a picture that wouldn't be questionable, but there's a pill bottle right there that somebody has chose to try to bring into our facility, a facility. We've had, I don't want to get ahead of my slides, give me just a second. We actually have had people from probation court. They'll know they're going to go to jail Tuesday. When they go to jail, they will take advantage of buying a large amount of heroin and marijuana to bring to the jail. For whatever reason, whether cell use or whatever, it's actually caused several overdoses that actually could have killed one of our inmates. He was gone. EMTs were there, paramedics on the scene. Our guys were trained. They were able to reverse the overdose. And upon investigation, we were able to determine that that's where it come from. We don't know how many other people got part of it. But, and it's an officer safety issue as well. I mean, a lot of times when we do our cell searches and shakedowns, we'll find shakes, homemade weapons, if you will. And they put them wherever you can't find them. So you got to imagine. But this is completely legal. It's the doses there is, how many times a year can a person walk through that? 100 or more times a year without being a concern with the Department of Health or Safety. as far as the radiation and stuff goes. I just think it'd be a great tool. It would help save lives in the jail as far as overdoses of drugs, weapons. It keeps our officers safe. It keeps people accountable. And anytime you got drugs in the jail, now you got violence in the jail. How you gonna get that, and how you gonna pay me for that, and what you owe me now? These guys sit around all day long and think of ways to get what they want. I mean, we actually got them on phone calling and tell them, hey, you know what I need, bring it to the jail, and they do it. They know on probation court day they're gonna go to jail, and they're gonna be in jail for 24 hours, and while they're there, they do what they do to get it out. Big concern we got the maintenance of our facilities. 2017-18, excuse me, phase 2 of our CIP, we were able to this is it. Our air handlers we're trying to get put in. That should take care of the mold problem that we got complaints about last year in the jail. It will be able to handle the mold, dehumidifiers as well. Next year, 18-19, phase 3, the completion of the same thing. There's another section of air conditioning handlers in the jail. Maintenance costs and emergencies that kind of come up this year we weren't planning for, but we've been able to get through most of them. 2 wash machines went out at the same time. These things run about 15 hours a day. The commercial, over 10 years old, they went out. We were able to install, we got one and one on the way. We had an electrical problem in our kitchen. It caused serious damage. A leaking roof, some of our skylights are leaking. The law requires us to have so much sunlight in our detention center. Deteriorating sewer lines under the slab of the foundation and facility. It's an ongoing project. Our kitchen had to shut down. Our maintenance guys may be very proud of how they were able to get in there and figure out a way to keep that line going. They built a homemade pump and they built a homemade holding station to keep the water flowing until we could get this thing under control. They're working with an outside contractor. They're working with Tim. He's helping them, the county engineer, get some stuff going. Next picture I'm going to show you is what we're dealing with in the middle of our jail. The picture on the left shows you a pipe that's completely deteriorated. This is taken out of the hole and laid on the ground. The bottom of it's completely deteriorated. We've had raw sewer running down there, seeping into the grounds down there. Another picture on the left, the center, and the picture on the right. It's not the yellow brick road. It's actually where we have had to cut that cement out and replace the pipe, and it's backfilled with rock right now. They're getting ready to put another coating over it. We don't know how long the pipe on the left, we don't know how far it goes. We did another 40-foot section over the weekend, and we still, as we dig, we're still finding this deterioration. We've been able to really investigate it. They run a camera in the pipes and look at the pipes, look where the pipe starts deteriorating. Can it be fixed with a bladder? Can it be fixed with an insert? But if it ain't no pipe there, they can't fix it with an insert. So just to be in mind, next couple of years, what's this going to cost the jail? We need to be mindful of expenses like this coming up. But I am bragging on our maintenance guys. They did a good job keeping the kitchen up. If we'd had to close the kitchen down and source outside meals for 4 days, it would have cost us over $20,000 in meals. But they were out there working this weekend, so I went out there and checked on them. They were working themselves the weekend. Some of our accomplishments, I spoke about the jail navigator position. She's recognized 60 inmates that she works with. Intelligence officer we got last year has proven to be a great resource for us. I've been able to gather a lot of intelligence, been able to prevent a lot of these gang activities in our jail. Transportation division, we transport over 3,216 inmates were safely and securely transported throughout the state, court, mental health transports, county-to-county pickups, prisoners transfers, doctor's appointments. And that's why them vans roll. And just some of our accomplishments, the inmate work detail. Inmate workers picked up trash at various locations, furniture, tires, roadway in Pitt County. A lot of that, the work volume depends on the weather. In certain temperatures they're allowed to work in. Approximately 50 miles of our rural roads were clean this fiscal year. So far this year, the winter has not allowed us to do any work. We did do some this week on another situation. And just closing March, I'm going to give you a couple pictures to look at of some of our activities that we do. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it's pretty neat. You see a lady running our control room at the jail. For those who've never seen what that looks like, if you see her, she's sitting there looking in a pod. And you can see the inmates in orange jumpsuits on the floor working. She's supervising about 3 pods right there. She got the camera system in front of her, a workstation computer. And, you know, we were able to put our new camera system in about 2 years ago, and that really made a big difference in being able to help enhance the security in our jail. I just think it's important that we emphasize to our community that we're not the kind of guy that's always out there anti-community and social. We want to be approachable. We want to be respected and loved by our community. And with that, that's my presentation.
Any questions from the,
I have one.
Mr. Farley?
Yeah, Neil, on your slide, page 8 here, accomplishments of the gang investigators, do you have any idea on these ATF gun traces, how many guns were returned to their rightful owners?
No, but I can get you that information.
Okay. But that, you would have that information?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
it's been,
okay, all right.
most of them
That's-
were, if they were stolen, they would be classified as stolen, then that person would be charged with possession of a stolen firearm, and then they'd be up to the court to get that gun back. But that is our goal, is to get it back to the rightful owner.
Yeah, because that's the one reason gun
A lot of people don't know-
owners make sure it's
A lot of people
listed.
don't know the serial numbers. You know, people
Yeah,
buy
I know.
guns, they move. I've had a gun 20 years. It's in my safe. What do I do with that box? You know, they don't know where the serial numbers are, including me. But, you know.
I still have a Ruger light carry pistol that was lifted from my daughter's car downtown like 6 years ago, so that's very important. And just curious, Glenn and I were talking, these CCP revocations, what's the number one reason for a revocation?
Mainly, they've committed a crime.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, Mr. Farley?
No, thank you.
Mr. Lawhorn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, I want to commend you on your senior citizen outreach program. That I've been getting a lot of calls and concerns that this has been a very positive program for the senior citizen. You also mentioned Part 1 crimes that are down.
Yes, sir.
My question is, what are your Part 1 crimes, and what do you attribute the reduction to?
Good police work, hard investigations. I think last year we made and had a little increase. A lot of things changes to trend. I got a copy. I'll get you a copy before I leave. But I can just run over, you know, our murder rates. Like this year we've had 1. We average 6 to 7, sometimes 8. Our rapes are down, robberies. Some of your violent crimes are up a little bit, but the overall average of everything else, like the burglaries, residential, non-residential, commercial, larceny, auto theft, arson is down. The year when we had all of the scrap metal was so high, everybody was stealing junk cars. Well, that hit me as a auto theft, you know, so it really drove my rates way up years ago. But our biggest thing we try to focus on is our violent crimes, our burglaries, people's homes, our businesses broken into. And your Part 2 is basically, it's like simple assault, forgeries, embezzlements, vandalisms, prostitution, gambling, and stuff like that, non-serious crimes. But this is something we look at every week. You know, we can look at our reports and see where we're up, what our trends are. A couple of years ago, we had the hole-in-the-wall guys. They made my commercial burglary rates go up through the roof, like 42 of them. But, you know, our commercial rates now are down to 5, you know.
Yeah.
All this
think,
subject change any second, but that's what we try to be aware of and see what our trends are. When we see we have a trend, whether it be a break-in or car break-ins, that gang unit, the street crime guys, they'll go after that. I mean, I remember this year we had a neighborhood broke in several cars. In Greenville had like 101 night, we had 101 day. So we go out there and they sit out and do stakeouts until they catch them. You know, they're there. Because if I let that guy run for 5 days, now I got 300 car break-ins, you know, so I've got to get him in for it. First of all, keeps our citizens safe, but the second time, we'll be very conscious of our performance throughout the year.
Right. I think that speaks volume of your officers in terms of what they are doing in the community. You mentioned also the canine dog that you may be needing. Now, I read an article in the paper about Aden Police Department. They are retiring their canine program. Have you had any consideration in terms of looking into that area?
At this time, I don't think it's a good idea to retire the dogs. The dogs are very beneficial on drugs.
No, looking into in terms of utilizing Aden Police canine.
I'm not familiar with that. I had to see who the dog, what the training is of the dog, and I'm going to be setting a great liability if he don't meet the standards that we have. We've set the bar really high on our trainer. We probably have got the best trainer now for the last 3 years that we've had, as long as I can remember, at the sheriff's office. These guys are held accountable, and they got to be committed. And bringing a dog to work is like bringing your kid to work with you all day long. You got to stop and let him go to the bathroom all day long, and he's got to take breaks. And so it takes a dedicated person to ride around with a dog in his car all day long. Not everybody's cut out for it. It's a lot of training. It's a daily training. Every day they have to train. And it's nothing for them to go to work, stop somewhere, call another officer, run a track, run a trail, hide dope. You got to keep that dog on his toes all day long. And setting the liability of another dog, if he don't meet my handler's guidelines, I wouldn't want him, but I'd be a lawsuit if he bit the wrong person or something, you know. Or if he hits on the drugs and he's not for real, and I search that car, now I got to justify in front of the court why I searched that car.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Malone?
The final question is that your inmates that works in the kitchen area.
Yes, sir.
What kind of status, in terms of security status, would they have to be in? What inmate status would they have to be in? Like,
well, you like classification, maybe?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
They have a classification process that you look at what they're there for. Maybe you dealt with them before. They were good inmate workers in the past. They have a classification process that they go through, and you have to meet that. And these guys are housed. These inmates are housed, in other words, inmate housed separately, where they don't interact with the regular inmates, because you don't want to expose. You try to limit your exposure just as much as you can to, being able to put them in a situation they're going to do a favor for somebody. But they have their own bedded area that they stay in, and they have to volunteer for the program. I can't make them. I go down there and ask them. Had a lady one time told me she wanted her son to be on kitchen detail, and I said, okay. So I called the major, and he said, well, I got to ask him first. And first, his question was, what time I got to get up? He said, 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, no, I'm stay right here. I said, well, leave him alone. He's fine. What I told his mom. So, well, you got to ask them. You can't make them. So they volunteer to do it. And like I said, I hate to say it, a lot of it's child support, it's repeaters, nonviolent crimes, absolutely nonviolent crimes.
right.
But, you just don't know. That's why we want to take every caution we can. We've seen, we've had experiences that we dealt with outside vendors, knowing somebody in the jail, and next thing you know, they get a phone call, and next thing you know, I got some marijuana coming in the jail. So one thing in our commissary, one of my requirements was that the vendor don't live so many miles from Pitt County. They can't even live in Pitt County. I'm trying to narrow that possibility of them knowing somebody in my jail. Trying to keep safety. That's the first one up plate.
Mary, you got some budget questions for the sheriff?
Yes.
Okay, ready.
I want to ask him about SROs.
What would you like to know about them, ma'am?
First of all, I want to comment you on the trash. Everybody sitting up here know how I feel about seeing trash along the highway. So I wish you'd do more of that. Number 2, SROs. And what is found with the SROs. I'm really on safety within the school system. And I understand that your office handles supplies to SRO. That's
For
correct?
certain schools, yes, ma'am.
Yes. So what kinds of things you found with SROs in the school as it relates to safety and weapons and whatever?
You mean maybe incidents we run into or safety concerns? Is that what you mentioned?
Have you found weapons or what kinds of things? Because
Yeah, we found
if they're
weapons.
going to solve it, they need to know what's happening. I
Absolutely.
just wanted some idea. I want a whole lot of, I just want to talk.
Well, every time we find a weapon, we make an arrest on it. So I've got a traceable, I can track that information for you. And generally they are arrested when they find a weapon. You don't hear every day of somebody bringing a gun to school like you used to years ago, because the kids know that they're not going to tolerate it. They're going to be suspended. A couple of accidents would be, hey, I went hunting, left my gun in the truck. So they've kind of learned not to do that anymore. We've had a couple this year, a couple of the schools that have had some style of a weapon there that have been charged. Drugs is one of our big concerns. I get complaints from parents every day. My kid can't go to the bathroom. Got so much smoke in there. They're smoking marijuana in there. So we really work that. A lot of your high schools like to experiment with different type of drugs and stuff. But our first and foremost is safety. The way we look at SROs now compared to 15 years ago, it was kind of a, give me that job. That's the easiest job in the department. But now I have to put my best officers out there. The chief and I were talking the other day, the Greenwood chief, and he said, man, if they give me 15 SROs, he said, I don't know where I'm going to get them, because you don't want to put your rookie out there. You want to put an experienced officer out there. So just, if we were to transition to that program, that's going to be difficult, because we're probably going to have to pay a lot of overtime to get seasoned officers to go out there. I mean, one of my officers is a sniper on the SRT team. He got the best officer out there. They don't know that, but I know that, but we want your highly trained, physically fit officers that can respond to an emergency. It's like I've asked them all, are you willing to lay your life down for these people? You got to be willing to do that. You got to be on your A game being an SRO. It ain't no more sitting behind the desk eating pizza all day long. You got to have your best out there.
Okay, so they have special training for those that go there, in addition to what you normally train for.
Yeah, we train all our officers very good in rapid deployment, but also the state requires them to attend the school resource officers training during the summer months. They go to is about 2 weeks.
But that's what I'm
Teaches you how to, and they got to wear a lot of hats. When you're an SRO, you got to be a counselor, you got to be a friend, you got to be a person who can. It's like I tell them, I say, you don't understand the difference you make in these kids' lives. You may prevent some kid from killing himself this afternoon, through bullying and stuff. So you got to be on your game. You got to kind of be eyes and ears and tuned in to what's going on in the hallways. And our guys do a real good job at it, and all of them throughout the county do. Hope that answers your
Thank you,
question.
Sheriff.
If there's no further questions of the sheriff, Sheriff, thank you for your presentation. Mr. Elliott, do you have any comments?
Yes, if I can, just like to thank the sheriff for his budget submittal and working with him. Just also wanted to note that obviously this year's budget process has been a constrained process due to revenues, but we were able to accommodate out of about $2.2 million in expansion requests between the detention center, the sheriff's office, the jail health services, about $833,000 of expansion dollars. Public safety is your number two priority under education, and actually the dollars we're giving to public safety just in these three cost centers exceeds the total of what we're even giving to Pitt County Schools and PCC. Just want to note that you still have a commitment to public safety, and you're meeting that. The other thing on the canine dogs, I think there was a canine dog for both, one for the sheriff's office, one for the detention center, and the body scanner. I've talked to the sheriff and his staff and have suggested that right now there's no funding in this year's budget for the body scanner, but had suggested the sheriff consider using his state and federal asset seizure forfeiture dollars for that, which would be an eligible expense, and we could buy it right out. The scanner's about $179,000, and then possibly the same thing for the two canine dogs. I think the sheriff is evaluating that with his staff, but that's a potential go-to pot of money that we have right now. So.
Thank you for that. You and the sheriff continue to work on that, and thank you, Sheriff.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Unless there's someone in a dire need for a break, Mr. Everett is here. We'll proceed.
I'm good.
Is that agreeable with the board?
Yes.
Mr. Everett?
Good morning.
Morning.
We'll get started in just a moment.
Doesn't have another PowerPoint, does it?
Didn't we just see him Monday night?
Mm-hmm, we did. We surely did.
Seems like we just left, doesn't it?
Yeah, he was just saying that.
Okay. We'll make it brief this morning. Again, thank you all for allowing us to come up and talk about the Emergency Management Department, the budget this morning. Before I get started, I would like to introduce a few folks. Our staff, we have Angela Brown, who works with us on our budget. She serves as our departmental planner. We have Jim MacArthur, our Deputy Director, EMS Coordinator. And we have Jimmy Hodges, our Deputy Director of Communications. And also we have Dr. Patella with us this morning, who serves as our Medical Director. So he's here with us this morning as well. So it truly is a partnership. And as you see, we start out by saying that we are one family and one focus. And we want to start by saying that we appreciate your continued support, and we thank you for what you've done to do the things that you do that you've provided for us over the years. So we really do appreciate the partnership. So when we talk about emergency management, really what is emergency management? Well, emergency management is really, it's 4 divisions that's comprised of administrative staff, along with the specialists that work with county departments, municipalities, and an array of community agencies, really based on organizations to help ensure that the county and its residents have the resources and information needed to mitigate, prepare, respond to, and recover from any type of an emergency, disaster, or any type of significant event. So it's really all of us working together to help the needs of our community. So when we talk about emergency management, you know, we have 4 divisions that make up our department. We have the fire division, the EMS division, the 911 communications division, as well as what we'll call the EM, or the emergency management planning division. So when we sort of quickly run through our divisions, we'll start with the fire side of things for this upcoming year. We continue to work with one full-time deputy fire marshal, as well as our 2 part-time deputy fire marshals. We find that combination works really well, and it's a benefit in terms of our budget by that structure. Those 3 gentlemen do a great job, and of course what they do are they're continuing to perform fire code inspections, reviewing construction plans, working with building inspectors, architects and engineers and the like, as well as working to investigate fires and responding to various types of emergencies. So they're out in the community helping, making sure that we are a code compliant county as it relates to fire. So when we look at some of our major accomplishments on the fire side, you know, we're very proud to say that we had a partnership with our fire chiefs this year in the radio coverage testing. As you know, that's been a project that you all have supported now for really, it's kind of a 2-year project. Provided the funding, and you know, we're finishing up with the implementation of our radio enhancement system. During this process, we reached out to our fire chiefs to say, hey, as we're doing the radio "Can You Hear Me Now" testing, we want the fire and EMS community to be with us so that they can hear firsthand what this system sounds like and how it functions. So we had a partnership with some of the fire chiefs. We invited all the fire chiefs. Unfortunately, not all of them were able to partner with us, but we did have a handful that participated in the testing with us. Also on the fire side, in terms of a major accomplishment, one of the things that we introduced this past winter, was something that we called warming stations. If you recall, back in the midst of the winter, we had some negative temperatures. Well, emergency management, we were very concerned that if we had those very cold temperatures and we lost utility services, we would have people in structures without any heat, and it was going to be very cold. So we came up with this thought of, okay, we're going to create some warming stations. And what we did is we reached out to all 20 of our volunteer fire stations and said, hey, it's going to be -3 degrees tonight. If we have a power outage in a particular geographical area, can we call upon you to open your doors to your heated fire station with a generator so that we can get people out of harm's way and get them into a temporary warming location until we can find something a little bit more suitable for them. So that was a great partnership with with our fire departments. We also worked with the county manager on that because we were concerned that for a period of time there we had snow and ice on the roads, and we knew that if we needed to go and get individuals from subdivisions, that we may need to do that. They may not have the means to transport themselves from their location to the fire station. So the county manager worked with us to have transportation available at night and throughout the weekend, so that if we needed to activate that plan, then we had transportation identified, we had fire stations identified, and we had the communication link in place so that we could get these individuals out of harm's way on a temporary basis. So that was something that we were real proud of that we worked on this winter. Also, we were real proud of our deputy fire marshal, our full-time Deputy Fire Marshal Jay Morse. Jay has completed his Level 2 Fire Marshal certification and is now working toward his Level 3 status, which is the highest that an individual can obtain. So he continues to work on that, and we're proud of that progress. So when we talk about our fire districts, some of the things that we'd like to highlight, we would want to talk for just a moment about our truck purchases and some of our fire tax rates, some of our increases. You'll see there in front of you, there's a chart that we rely upon really on a yearly basis. You'll see that chart there highlights not only what the proposed tax rate is for the upcoming year, but also if that particular department had an interest in pursuing a fire truck supplemental funding. So I want to take just a second and just kind of talk about that particular chart. And we'll start with our fire truck purchases. If you recall, this board several years ago instructed us to place $125,000 in our budget for supplemental funding for the volunteer fire departments to go toward the purchase of a newer used truck, $25,000 per truck. So that's 5 trucks, $25,000. That's $125,000. Those funds are in our budget for this upcoming year, and the Ayden Fire Department, along with Clark's Neck, Eastern Pines, Falkland, and Red Oak, are the 5 departments that have asked for that $25,000 funding this year. They all plan to purchase a fire truck of some sort in this upcoming budget. So that is something that the departments really do appreciate. They ask that I pass that on to you, that they appreciate that continued support with that supplemental funding program that you have in place for us. Also, that chart talks about some of our fire district rates. Obviously, we know that our fire departments need funding to operate, and that funding comes by way of taxes. So we have 5 fire departments that actually are asking for a tax increase this year. We have Ayden's asking for a 3/4 cent, Belvoir's asking for a 1/4 cent, Farmville's asking for a penny, Grifton's asking for a half, and Pactolus is asking for a 3 cent increase. So we wanted to just expand on that for just a second to say, okay, what's kind of the history of where we are with the particular departments that have asked for raises this year. Well, Ayden is in the process of implementing a proposal to purchase a new fire truck. So therefore, there's some funding that they need to help purchase that truck. So that's why they're asking for the funding. Belvoir, with the fleet of equipment that they have, they're in need of funding to help the maintenance, to help ensure that those vehicles are road ready to go on a moment's notice. Farmville, also very similar. They are looking to add some money to their fund for the purpose of a truck. So they're looking to maintain some equipment as well as secure some additional equipment. Grifton has indicated they've had a slight reduction in their tax base, so therefore that's the need for their proposed increase. And Pactolus, they have been doing fundraisers, as many of you know, for a number of years. Those fundraisers are a bit on a decline. So with that, that's been a negative impact, and they also, because of call volume, are looking to staff a person at their station. If you recall the other night, Commissioner Colson asked us to follow up on some staffing history or a snapshot of the future with the fire service. This is kind of an example of that, where we now have another department that is asking for someone to be at that station readily available on a moment's notice during the day. So we have a number of departments that are using kind of a daytime person. So we see Pactolus is asking for that as well. Now, I will say that if you recall that the fire departments have a 3-person fire commission that they work with, almost kind of like an advisory board, if you will, within each department. We just wanted to note in full disclosure that for Pactolus, one of those 3 individuals did oppose their budget plan. So we just wanted to make that known to you. But again, the other 2 supported it and moved it forward. So that's really sort of where we are, on the fire side. Again, the departments are taking advantage of the apparatus supplemental funding that you have in place. Our departments are trying to maintain their tax rate, but you can see that there are a few departments that are in need of an adjustment for some long-range planning that they have in place. So if we switch gears for just a moment and we start talking about our EMS folks, the EMS side of the house, again, Jim MacArthur serves as our Deputy Director of EMS. We continue to maintain our paramedic supervisors, the QRV, the Quick Response Vehicle, in a 24/7 mode of operation. We continue to utilize the Community Paramedic, which is a grant-funded position through Vidant. In this budget, we are asking for 4 senior paramedic new positions, and we'll talk more about those here shortly. Within our department, we are continuing to maintain 12 full-time paramedics. And of course, they work either a 12 or 24-hour shift. And we do have a pool of part-time staff members that we can utilize. And of course, we're talking about these particular individuals are assigned to the stations that we, the county, have direct oversight and responsibilities for, which is Pactolus and Bethel. So when we look at our EMS departments, you know that we have a contract with 8 of our county EMS squads. We still continue to contract with those 8 nonprofits. Again, the county, we have a direct operation of 2 of those, being Bethel and Pactolus. All 10 provide the paramedic level care. We're very proud of that. And of course, funding is provided by the countywide EMS tax and transport fees. And we're proud to be able to say this morning that that 4.6 tax rate, we're not asking for that to increase. We can continue to do our operation within the confines of that 4.6. So we are not recommending any type of tax rate change for service delivery of EMS. So what's some of the things that EMS has done this year in terms of compliments? Well, as you know, this board approved for us to go out and seek approval to have 5 ambulances remounted. That project is currently underway. We have full implementation of the community paramedic program, and we're really getting good marks from the community on that. Vidant Health is very pleased with the results of that program, and so we continue to grow that program. We're very excited about what the future holds for that program. We also participated in the local opioid symposium. If you recall, earlier in the year, this board sponsored, and the county manager was kind of the point of contact for that symposium. And so our EMS service was actually there, not only participating with a booth, but there to answer general questions. So, we participated in that. And one of the things we're really excited about is the fact that we're able to migrate our patient charts, our billing process. We're able to migrate that over to a web-based program, and so that has proven to be very beneficial for us. And one of the things that we're really, truly excited about is our Pulse Point. We've been before you before to talk about this project. This is a community-based CPR program. So you can put this particular app on your phone, and if you're in the general area and there's someone that's having a heart attack and needs CPR, you can get this notice on this app on your phone. So it's something that we're very proud of, and we're proud to say that we're one of the first in North Carolina. We actually thought maybe we would be the second jurisdiction to implement it, but it looks like ours is going to be fully implemented before the other jurisdiction in North Carolina. So we'll be able to say that we truly were the first agency in North Carolina to implement this citizen response CPR program. So something we're very excited about. And again, it's been a partnership with you, the EMS oversight, as well as the EMS service as a whole, along with our medical director. So it truly is everyone working together. So I said a moment ago that we were going to talk about, we had asked for 4 senior paramedic positions. These positions are being funded through that 4.6 tax rate. We're not using general fund dollars to secure these particular positions, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But some of the highlights, also we're looking at equipping and operating a second quick response vehicle. And again, these are our items that we have worked with the EMS Oversight Committee on, and that they have endorsed us to move forward with these. So when we talk about the senior paramedic position, this is kind of a new concept here in Pitt County. And what we're asking for is we're asking for 1 position per shift for a total of 4 positions. So in a sense, we have 4 shifts within Pitt County EMS for the 2 stations that we have direct responsibility for. what we're hoping to do is to be able to reduce the reliance upon our part-time staff. We are working 12 and 24 hours, so if we have someone scheduled to work today for 24 hours and that person becomes ill overnight, we really truly are scrambling to try and find someone available from a part-time pool that we can get in to staff that position. So when we talk about EMS staffing with our 2 squads, we're talking about our minimum staffing is 4. We have 2 ambulances, 1 ambulance at each station, so we have 2 people per ambulance. So we have 4 paramedics on duty plus the QRV operator. So if we have someone that calls out sick today, now we have to find someone to fill that role because we do not want to take that vehicle out of service. So we have been very creative this year in trying to ensure that we have available staffing to keep these units in service. So with this, we're hoping to be able to increase that minimum staffing by 1 person. That's going to allow us to be able to put that QRV in service, and we'll talk just a tad bit more about that. This concept we've been working on probably for the last 6 months, and we've been working with the EMS oversight along with the medical director's office. Our hope is, our goal is with these positions that if today's shift is fully staffed with this 1 extra person, what are we going to do with that 1 extra person? Well, we're not just going to try and find some busy work for that person. We want to take that second QRV. If you remember, you all granted us permission last year to go buy a second SUV and equip it as a medical response vehicle so that we would have a backup QRV. What we would like to do is when we are fully staffed, because of these extra positions, we can take that second QRV, we can put it in service, we can put it out on the road, and now we've just increased our response capability. So we could have, on days that vehicle is in service, we could have 1 QRV on the north side of the river, we could have 1 QRV on the south side of the river. If we needed to put this vehicle down in the southeast area of Pitt County, then we would have the capability of now having a resource that we could toggle around. But it's dependent upon the additional positions. And again, these positions are, funded through the tax rate, the EMS countywide tax, not the general fund. And again, this is something that the medical director, Dr. Patella, has worked with our office on, as well as the oversight committee, and it was endorsed by the EMS oversight committee. So it is something that we're excited about, being able to increase our capability that will help us answer a staffing deficiency, as well as allow us to enhance our response capability throughout the community. So very quickly, when we talk about our 911 staffing, again, just like last year, we want to thank you for your commitment to helping us enhance our radio and paging system. As you know, that's been an ongoing project, but it's nearing completion at this point. We have Jimmy Hodges, our Deputy Director of Communications, with us this morning, and I've got to just say for Jimmy, for just a second, that Jimmy is in the 2nd class of a 911 manager's course. There's the North Carolina 911 board. They actually started this new program where 911 managers could take a series of in-depth courses and actually could get a certification in 911 communication certification. So our very own Jimmy is in the 2nd class. He was accepted into the 2nd class. Said it's a little intense, and he doesn't want to talk about what his grade point average is right now for some reason, but I think it's like a 96, he said. So but we won't say anything about that, okay? But we have Jimmy as the deputy director there. We have the operations manager. We still have the 2 shift leaders, our shift supervisors, and the shift leaders and telecommunicators. So we're not asking for any additional telecommunicator positions this year. We are proud of the fact, though, that we are nearing the end of the radio enhancement paging project. We're also excited about the 911 center that we now have. Again, thanks to you all, we have the backup center located north of the river, so we can toggle from one location to the other. And I'm proud to say that we actually worked out of the backup center last week for an entire week. And knock on wood, without a single glitch, we informed the emergency services community prior to that, hey, we're going to be switching over to our backup center. We're going to operate out of there for the entire week from Monday to Monday. If you see any glitches, please let us know, and much success. So our staff is actually getting acclimated to how to transition from center center, and so that continues to go well. Jimmy and his staff, they continue to work on our 911 policies and procedures. Jimmy has actually met with a committee of fire and EMS individuals working on policy and partnership, how we can work together with the fire and EMS community on dispatch practices. So that continues to go well, as well as ensuring that we have an interoperability plan, that if radio system A goes down, how do we immediately switch over to radio system B and continue to keep all of our agencies online and communicating? So a lot of good things are occurring within our 911 center. And in terms of our budget, obviously, you know that with the project, there's been some additional costs. We are working on the Motorola annual maintenance. That will not come into effect until November of 18. We're still sort of under that factory warranty, if you will. And we just wanted to highlight that because of the fact we enhanced our system, we have 4 tower sites that we pay a monthly fee on, that each year that will go up by 3%, and then we have taken that into account in the budget. Lastly, for just a moment, the EMS side of the house, if you will, we have the position of EM director, we have an office manager, and we have our planner, Angela Brown, who's with us this morning. So that sort of makes up the administrative side of all that goes on behind the scenes with the emergency management department. A lot has been done, and it's because of partnership not only within our department but also with our internal and external partners and customers, and support again from the board, from the management team, everyone working together. We've done some things that are a little bit unique. Angela actually put together a drill this year with our amateur radio club here in Pitt County. What that consisted of was Angela worked with our fire chiefs, our EMS chiefs, as well as the amateur radio group, and they went out to different fire stations with their equipment, and we just pretended like we had a massive communications failure. And how could we all talk? Would that radio equipment be able to obtain a signal in this particular EMS building, and could we talk from point A to point B? So very successful, a lot of lessons learned. So that was something that we had a lot of success with, that I think Angela is going to look in the future and maybe try and build upon that some more. Something else we did this year is we had a hazmat symposium where we invited not only the emergency responders from within Pitt County, we also invited the industry from Pitt County. We had individuals from, would we say, maybe around the Raleigh, Durham area, all the way to the coast to come and participate. And what this symposium was, it was where different hazmat responders and regulatory agencies could come together, and we could all talk about hazmat. What's going on? What do we need to do? Partnerships and things of that nature. That was very successful for us. We've also, again, nearing the completion of the radio enhancement project. We've participated in a number of public awareness and safety campaigns. If you follow our Facebook page, you'll see that we do a lot of promotion of various campaigns, whether it's Telecommunicators Week, Severe Weather Week, Hurricane Preparedness Week, Fire Prevention Week, EMS Appreciation Week. We participate in a number of campaigns, and kudos to our Public Information Office. Again, they do a great job of partnering with us and helping enhance our image. So they do a great job in supporting us there. And of course, we continue our partnership with agencies like the Red Cross and others. But one thing that we wanted to highlight about the Red Cross partnership is whenever we have disasters, we need to make sure that we have shelters, places we can let our citizens go to get them out of harm's way. We may have an incident that may not elevate up to needing to open up a school as a shelter. So we have partnered with the Red Cross and the faith-based community to identify churches throughout Pitt County that if we have a particular event that we need to get people out of harm's way for a period of time, then we can contact that church facility, and then we can actually move individuals in there for a short period of time. So so we're very proud of that partnership. And Angela, we're up to 15. We're up to partnership with 15 different churches in our county that on a moment's notice we can make a phone call, and they'll open up their doors for our department and the communities that's in need to be there for a particular period of time. So kind of the last thing in terms of our EM budget, just real quickly, mention our chairs and some equipment contingency. We're very proud of the fact that North Carolina now is basically identifying resources, and they're disseminating these resources to different counties. Pitt County has been fortunate enough to, over the last couple of years, to receive a light tower, from the State Emergency Management Department. We have 2 message boards. We have a medical four-wheeler, if you will, a UTV, and the trailer to transport it. And most recently, we have a mobile shower trailer. So these are assets that are assigned to Pitt County that were given to us free of charge, in a sense, from the state. The only stipulation is we need to utilize them, and also if they're needed within the region, we partner with the neighboring agencies for these to be utilized. I'm proud to say that other than the shower trailer, which is this new rolling in literally as we speak, the others have been used from whether it's local law enforcement, whether it's local fire departments or out-of-county fire departments, EMS squads. These items are indeed being used. So with that, obviously there is a cost to ensure that we have preparedness in place for that. So we'll just, continue to look. We've got to find funding to make sure that if we need tires, if we need something, that it's road ready. Now we just have to look within our budget and find the dollars to make that repair. So so we're hoping that we can build that line so that we'll have funds available for preparedness. And of course, if you talk with anybody in emergency management, we talk about our EOC chairs. We're working to identify funds so that we can get our 15-year-old chairs replaced over a period of time. We have funding maybe to replace maybe half of our chairs, but we don't want to just replace half and at one time. So anyway, so those are 2 things that we continue to work on in our office. But again, we want to say we certainly do appreciate your continued support, your partnership. We're proud of the partnerships that we're building within our community and where we're going. Much work's still to be done, and we'll just continue to work together in partnership. And of course, we have to say thanks to the management team for the support that they provide to us during the year. So I'll be glad to answer any questions, but we love to talk about emergency management, so I can go on a bit more if you'd like.
Thank you, Alan, for your presentation. I believe Mr. Webb's got a comment. Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to talk about the radio system very briefly on the 700. Are we making any moves to offer and to have all emergency services within the county to include the municipalities on the 700? It just has to be easier if we're using Viper for backup, if everybody's on the same frequency to talk to each other, because as Greenville and Winterville grow together, as the cities expand out and start taking more territory and have that overlap with emergency services with the county, it just seems like it would be easier if we were all on the same frequencies.
Yeah. Honestly, yes, we have our primary radio system for fire and EMS is the 700 megahertz, which is a county-owned system, and we do use the state Viper as our backup. A lot of the law enforcement agencies, and including the city of Greenville, they use Viper as their primary communication. So we can switch to Viper and talk to them. They can't necessarily switch from Viper and talk to us on 700. To answer your question, is there ongoing steps for that to occur? I've got to be honest and say the answer is no, because this board years ago, when we went to the 700 system, there basically was a process that if individuals wanted to access this system, that there was a fee that they would need to pay. So some agencies agreed to that and actually will pay that monthly fee to utilize our system. But in terms of our office extending availability partnership, that's something that we do not have the authority to do. So we would, yes. And if that happens, then we need to look, several things we will need to keep in mind. We'll have to look at expanding our license and the system capacity. So so there would be some things that we would need to work through if directed in the future for that partnership.
At the time when we were planning for the our system, we did ask the municipalities in the other agencies if they wanted to come onto the system, and majority of them that were on Viper said they wanted to continue with Viper because the state had committed so much money to it. And I think even indirectly the county had too, via some federal grants we received via the sheriff's office. We received those grants. Those grants were then returned back over to the state to help build the Viper towers. But like Alan was saying, that if any jurisdictions wanted to come onto our system, they could as a partnering agency, and then there is a monthly charge. For us now to expand this to go county-wide, there would be substantial costs because you've got base stations, you've got different components you talked about.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, the different radios they would need, the upgrades they would need to have to the radios. Again, one big thing for us internally would be the infrastructure, being able to add the capacity for the additional.
Well, I don't think they should have to pay a monthly fee, although if it's going to cause an expansion, because on emergency services side, I understand Public Works using it, I don't mind them paying a fee, but on the emergency services side for the interoperability and communication if something happens, I don't think we should charge them a fee for it. I don't think we should be charging the town of Winterville's fire department a fee for it. But when it comes to the expanding the capacity, if the municipalities wanted to engage in that, then they would need to help pay for that because it's in their own interest if they want to do it that way and provide their own radios, the equipment fees. But just as a monthly access fee, I don't think we should be doing that because I mean the same people who I know that they live in a town, but they paid the county taxes that have covered the system. It's just as far as their actual equipment and to help expand our capacity, I think the municipality should help do that or do that to bring them on. But you know, just the going between Viper and 700, we can't talk, you know, directly. It has, and then you're putting more on your dispatchers and I mean your telecommunicators and trying to relay messages and.
I think part of the monthly participation fee was based upon the fact that if they were going to choose to come onto the 700 system, that we're paying the debt service to retire all of our equipment, and we have hundreds of thousands of dollars annually in these tower fees we're paying, and you've seen that hit in this year's budget. It'll actually go up at another 100,000 next year as we come out of the maintenance period, the free maintenance period, into having to pay a full 12 months. I think we were just trying to recoup some of those costs, because technically it's not the county's responsibility to provide a communication system for a municipality. It was kind of the line of thought. And we've had that in place how many years, Alan?
Since 2012.
So we've been collecting that from, who do we collect it from?
We collect it from the city of Greenville and the town of Winterville. Town of Winterville Fire and Public Works, they pay the city of Greenville Public Works Department. They pay, Angela, is there?
Don't have the phone.
No, the agency that yeah, so yeah.
Biden Medical Center had talked to us about coming on the system, but then I think they decided to
purchase their own system, yes,
right.
sir. Yes, sir.
It might be worth just talking, because now's the time because of the radios that are going out of service and having to come, you know, get the new ones. It would be the time just to see where everybody's at, because once we leave, you know, anyone once they leave town and need to talk, you know, if they respond to something, then you hit the relay problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, Scott, do you have anything you want to contribute today?
No, just Alan's done a great job.
Nothing happens from that, then.
I have a question.
I thought you said no. Okay.
You know, I was
Go
going
ahead.
there. I think what you presented to us shows in-depth thought, and I commend you for that. I really do. You thought outside of the box, and you picked up some more things. But in an emergency, I think any municipality should be able to communicate. I mean, after all, every municipality is in Pitt County, and a monthly one, a serious emergency, then everyone should be able to communicate based on, because the outlining municipalities just doesn't have the monthly resources, I would think. I have two questions. I wrote them down, so it's not long, Mr. Chairman. I know you. Dual language staff. And I'm concerned about that because in my district there are a lot of dual language people. How many dual language people exist within your operation that can handle, because when people get excited, they go to their natural language.
Mm-hmm. We actually, I can't give you an exact number of multiple language individuals, but we do have interpretation sets in place so that if we have a communication barrier, we have means available to get that interpreter to help us communicate.
That's what I want to know.
Yes,
so you've thought about it. I was wondering why the third person objected to the plan, but anyway. A train jumping the track And I thought about this when I saw
You're
that.
not going to jinx us, are you?
I hope not, because I tell you, in one of my trips to the fire department, it seemed like that. But in case that happened, have you thought about assimilating possibilities, what you need to do as far as chemicals? And I did go to one of those sessions at the North Carolina Association, one of the county commissioners thing, and they talked about chemicals in cars or connected with trains, and when they jump the track, and I thought about it when that train jumped the track not long ago. Have you thought about what you would need and how you need to address it?
Yes, ma'am. We have, our department, we have to be prepared for what they call all hazards. So we have to be prepared to respond to whether we're talking about that train derailment, that aircraft aviation mishap, that grass fire, that woods fire. And it's all in partnership with our fire, EMS, and law enforcement community. We actually have a regional hazmat response team next door in Williamson that we work closely with, that are good friends of ours. Also, our fire departments, they are required to obtain hazmat training each year. So not only, I shouldn't say just simply fire, but most of our emergency services disciplines are required to have hazmat training. But our all hazards approach is basically, we have plans. We have a large notebook, if you will, that we have done a risk assessment of what type of incidents would occur or could occur in our county, and how we would combat those, how we would respond to, control and mitigate them, and things of that nature, and who the agencies would need to be that work with us. So it's an ongoing process each day.
I like the fact that the outlining areas such as Clark Neck, that's near another county, the cooperation, I was really pleasantly surprised about that with that. And the pact holders group having to cover, Bethel and Stokes and all like that. So you do have some real thought mechanism and process as it relates to covering the citizen of this county in case there is emergency. Now with the churches, has any of them asked about charges or whatever or whichever? Because I have a very large district, and they're far in between.
Yes, ma'am. Basically, they actually will enter into an agreement with the Red Cross, and so if there are anything like damages, then that's something that is addressed in that contract with Red Cross. But just simply to unlock the doors and turn the lights on, to charge us a usage fee, no, ma'am. No one has had that discussion. Angela, I want to make sure that I'm correct on that. Yeah. So there's no talk of funding or the talk of charging us for.
I just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth.
I just wanted to thank you for the presentation the other night. I know it was getting late and you may have felt hurried, but I thought it was very good for this group to hear, because, and I also want to thank your whole crew that came. We do appreciate you being here in support of this, including the lady who drives the whole business, right? Thank you so much. Good job.
When Scott the other night said I could have 45 minutes to an hour, but then Mr. Garrett said no, I'd be here by myself. So I didn't want to be alone, so that's why I hurried up. But.
I don't want you to extend.
You better be glad you talked to him instead of Mark, because it would have been less.
Thank you very much again. Thank you for the
If
support.
there's nothing further, we stand in recess until tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you.